Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast, Hoops Edition. Today, we are going to be talking some NBA with the NBA aficionado, Evan Debo. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to the listeners. Happy birthday, Cedric, as we're recording this on Saturday, January 9th. We are in NBA full swing, Martin.
Yeah, we are. We've had a couple weeks of the NBA since the December 22nd opening. Just to echo what Evan has said, I've said it to everyone in their first one of 2021. Evan, hope you had a happy New Year and holiday season with the family and the friends, and hopefully you were able to recharge going into 2021.
Absolutely, same with you and yours, buddy. Looking forward to crossing some more things off the to-do list this year, and it starts with the nightly recharge with watching NBA hoops.
Right. And let's get right into it. We've had a couple weeks of NBA hoops, and we're just gonna go over some of the conference. Well, there's only two conferences. We're gonna talk about the Eastern Conference right now, and just go over if the playoffs started today, who would be in right now to the 8 seeds, and what teams have surprised us and what teams so far are not surprising us. So we'll start off in the Eastern Conference. First off, currently the number 1 seed is the Philadelphia 76ers at 7-2. Evan, first off, were you surprised? Are you surprised by the Sixers' quick start?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am surprised by that. Obviously, they switched a lot of things around to start the new year under Doc Rivers, moving on from Al Horford getting off from that contract. And I mean, they've been playing well. I mean, they've been really aggressive in playing Simmons and Embiid together, with the exception of, again, as we record this on January 9th, that I mean, they're down to like 9 players for tonight. And now the league has a new rule this year, for listeners, that if you can field a team, if you can play 8 players, you're down to 7 players, they're going to cancel the game. If one team's down with contact tracing, injuries, whatever, you only have 7 players to play, they're gonna postpone or cancel the game. So the Sixers were in jeopardy of that tonight. Last night, Steph Curry tested positive, or 2 nights ago, Steph Curry tested positive for the coronavirus, and through contact tracing, it removed a lot of folks. I think they're down to 9 players tonight. So, and of course, they don't want to go into play a tough Denver team on the road with only 9 guys, and a lot of them being key guys. But so, I mean, that's almost going to be a scheduling loss tonight. I mean, I fully expect them to lose. I mean, it's just a scheduling loss. It's tough, but I mean, they've been off to a hot start. I mean, amazing what Doc has done so far. And again, like regular season, you got to see it in the playoffs. But so far, so good. You build your routines, you build your rotations, you build your on-court culture during the regular season. The Sixers are off to a great jump here into the new year.
Yeah, and I expected. I think we both had the Sixers in the top 4 when we previewed the season. I just didn't expect them to start off so quickly, so good on to them. The number 2 team right now is a shocker to me. The Orlando Magic is sitting at 6-2, and they've also been playing well as well. And I don't know if Cole Anthony heard our last podcast, but maybe
I've actually got the Pacers. The Pacers at 6-2 at number 2.
Oh, you got. I have the Magic 6-2 and the Pacers 6-2.
Well, the Magic lost.
Ah, gotcha.
At least according to, I'm on NBA.com. Maybe we've got a controversy here.
If they lost last night, maybe this is not updated as of last night. But if you have the Pacers 6-2, go ahead and just hit on the way they're playing.
Nope, yeah, let me find a different source while we're doing that.
Pacers were 6-2.
Yeah, I mean, they've been absolutely on a tear. Domantas Sabonis, man, is like playing MVP in the post. I mean, the way he's dishing the ball, we all knew the dude could step out, pop the 3. He's so technically sound in the post. I mean, everything. I mean, all the up fakes, like he's almost doing like a stiffer Jokic impersonation. But I mean, obviously he's smaller, doesn't have the court vision in terms of passing, everything else. But I mean, he has been absolutely phenomenal. But I mean, equally up there too. I mean, is Malcolm Brogdon's play. I mean, he's averaging 23.6 a game on 51% from two, 47% from three, dishing out 7 assists a game and 2 steals. I mean, he has been. I mean, Victor Oladipo has been. I mean, he's still averaging 20, but I mean, he's I mean, he's the third best player on his team. I don't know if any of us saw that. I mean, they've been phenomenal. I mean, a lot of people questioned them moving on from Nate McMillan, and I mean, they've just been fantastic with Bjork. I think that's his nickname. I can't think of his full name, but as their new coach, a disciple coming from Toronto, bringing in some of that. We even saw a little bit of box and one that we see with the Toronto Raptors too early on in some defensive sets with Indiana. But I mean, they've been playing really impressive basketball, Martin.
They're doing really well right now. You just said the glaring thing that right now Victor Oladipo been the best player on the team for the past couple of years. Right now is the third best player on his team, which is wild to even say. But like we'll see how.
Real quick, the stat line on Sabonis. So he's only averaging 0.4 more a game than Oladipo. He's played one more game than him. So 37 minutes a game, 20.8 from the floor, shooting 57, 52, and obviously he's not a great free throw shooter, 67%, but 52% from three, 57% from two, bringing down 11 rebounds a game and dishing out 6 assists. I mean, he's playing Jokic like, man. I mean, he is absolutely killing it. I mean, going to be an all-star, keeping this up, and competing hard for, I mean, potentially even first team NBA. Again, it's early, but fantastic play from the Pacers big man.
I don't know about MVP, but I feel like from his last year, I feel like he'll definitely get most improved.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to be a guy at the end of the award race for that, where you look up and see he's in contention. Martin, our next team, I've got the Boston Celtics here. It's 7-3, just ahead of the Magic, just because they played and won one more game. But they're 6-3 at home. Or sorry, they're 6-3 overall, 3-1 at home, 4-2 on the road. It's been a lot of steady diet of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, like we knew it. They've been ravaged with COVID tracing too. I don't know that they had a big other than Taco and Tice last night. I mean, so they played a lot of Semi Ojeleye, Tristan Thompson out due to contact tracing. I mean, we knew their depth was going to be thin, but I mean they're right there in the thick of it, like we thought. And Tatum and Jaylen, each averaging 26 a game. I mean, they're going to have to ride as far as these guys are going to take them for Boston to do anything. I still think they're, several pieces away, but I mean, obviously a great team, great defensive
and with
team.
the Boston, with the two, Tatum and Jaylen, where, as duo-wise, where do you rank them duos-wise? They have to be in the upper echelon, wouldn't you think? Like a top 6, 7 duo, maybe top 5, 3?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, you've got Stephen Curry and you've got Klay Thompson, and they're your, they're arguably your number one duo. Yep. LeBron and AD too, but I mean, I'd be hard pressed not to have them. I mean, with the injuries to the Warriors, right there with LeBron and AD right now. I mean, obviously, you always have Dame and CJ too are right there as well, but I just think too. I mean, defensively, what they bring to the floor is just. I mean, it's on another level. I mean, Dame's going to get knocked a little bit with his size defensively, but I mean, it's just they're right there. They're definitely a top 3.
So we just want to do 4 and 5 because these are both surprising. 4 was the Magic at 6-3, and 5 I have the New York Knicks at 5-4. Is that what you got?
Yeah, Julius Randle, 4 5.0, wherever we're at with Julius. Dude's been a monster. Huge game the other night too with Austin Rivers, who's really kind of coming into his own with this team. And I mean, obviously, Austin Rivers wants to be on a legit veteran playoff squad, and who knows? Maybe he'll be like a deal on after the trade deadline or something to somebody like Boston or something that could sorely use a guy like him coming off the bench. But I mean, he was killing it the other night. I miss the Garden being electric. like we were talking during draft, when you get all the Knicks boos when they draft their pick every year. It doesn't matter if they're the second coming of LeBron, they're going to boo him. But like, I miss the Garden being electrifying, and that definitely those kind of those just killer baskets that he was making down the stretch the other night on Wednesday, I think was. I mean, that would have been a moment where the Garden would have just been on fire. So, I mean, the Knicks have just been crazy, off to a good start. RJ Barrett's been great. Thibodeau's been riding those young guys already like we knew he was going to. 37, 38 minutes a game. It just absolutely, I hope that doesn't come back to hurt RJ Barrett and Julius Randle and some of those guys. But Knicks are fun to watch, man. They're good.
And only to start off the year in 2021, that last sentence you just said, Knicks are fun to watch. They're good. And the league's better when the Knicks are better. It's not like college. Like we have those quote unquote blue blood type teams like the Knicks. The league's a lot better when they're good. I don't like it when they stink, me personally, just because of the history of Madison Square Garden. So for them right now to be the number 5 seed, sitting at 5-4, hopefully this continues and maybe we see a playoff series with them. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. 6th seed, we got the Bucks. Is that who you have as well?
Yeah, yep. Milwaukee Bucks trying to get at 5-4. They're 4-1 at home, 1-3 away, which is a little surprising to see the differential on the road. But they're still trying to get Jrue Holiday involved. Couple kind of questionable early season losses in there that you're just like, yeah, those are games Bucks normally win. But I mean, they're right where they need to be. I think they're like 6 in offensive efficiency, and obviously the defense is there too. I mean, they're definitely in the second of the better halves of basketball, in that like 11 or 12th in defense, something like that. But I mean, so the Bucks will be, when it comes, I fully expect when this season wraps up, the Bucks will be back in one of the top 3 seeds. So, but that's enough of the Bucks. We got to talk about the number 7 spot.
Number 7 right now, 5-4. The Cleveland Cavaliers.
The Cavaliers of Cleveland. Now, as impressive as that is, and again, it's early. As impressive as that is, that they're 5-4. Martin, we got to talk. I mean, so just as we were talking about the scheduling impacting everything else, I think I put out a tweet earlier as we were talking about, with like the Denver game being in jeopardy with how many folks the Sixers have tonight. The Cavs have been hurting on their own, not because of contact tracing, but due to injuries early. So Kevin Love's only, so the Cavs are 5-4. In their last, they've lost 2 of their last 3. They lost to the Magic and they lost to the Pacers. Eked out one over the Grizz, and then lost to the. Actually, I think they've lost 3 of their last 4 and lost to the Hawks in there, I believe, as well. But so yeah, they're 5-4. But Kevin Love's played 1 game. Their most recent game over Memphis, which I don't know how they won. I mean, Memphis was hurting too. So not only did they not have Love, they didn't have Darius Garland, who's banged up, not going to play again tonight. Dylan Windler, Dante Exum's going to be out for an extended amount of time. Matthew Dellavedova didn't even make the road trip right now. And Colin Sexton missed the game too, late scratch with an ankle thing is going. Martin, I'm really getting concerned about who I would say was the best prospect heading the season for the Cavs and Kevin Porter Jr. I'm going to be honest. So tonight will be the 10th game the Cavs have played of this shortened 72-game season, where Kevin Porter Jr. has not played. He's not in any practice photos that the Cavs like official social media accounts do or anything like that. Does a lot of like selfies on IG of just like his face with some weird quotes and stuff. And this will be the 10th straight start he misses tonight for personal reasons. I know we'll talk about the Brooklyn Nets here next and Kyrie Irving's personal reasons for missing some time here. But Martin, I'm really concerned on it. I mean, it's got to be, in my opinion, I've discussed this with a lot of Cavs folks. It's got to be mental health stuff right now. And obviously last year and still during this pandemic, it's been very challenging to so many folks in that regard. And, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's something more innocent than that. Or, again, with some of his off-season stuff that they're holding him accountable without saying it. But I mean, this guy by far was the Cavs' best prospect through March last year. And I mean, we have nothing on him. Like the Cavs, I've heard from talking to, I've spoken with at least one reporter who said that, I mean, they're almost being like intimidated into not asking about him. It's just a weird situation. But despite all those things, the Cavs are 5-4. They're going to lose tonight against Milwaukee because they're trotting out some. Dean Wade probably is going to play 18 minutes. Like half the listeners probably don't even know who Dean Wade is. No, I did not say D Wade. I said Dean Wade. There's this. They're winning despite all these crazy things. I mean, but this is also where the reason why they're at is this is the number one defensive team in the NBA, Martin. Through 9 games. This is no joke. Larry Nance Jr. is every bit of playing that kind of Draymond role right now. He's leading the league in steals. He's blocking. He's bringing the ball up. He's passing the ball. I mean, this guy is first team all defense if the league ended today. If we had to stop because of COVID or like if the regular season was only supposed to be 10 games, he is first team all NBA defense. This guy is just playing out of his mind. And Colin Sexton too. 25 points a game. His assists are a little up this year, 3.5, taking on some of his point guard duties with Darius Garland out the last 2 or 3 games. Another guy like Malcolm Brogdon just shooting the crap out of the ball. 53% from the field and 51% from 3. He's like 9th or so, I think, in the league in scoring, again at 25.1 a game, 19.9 per. He's just, I mean, gone on to other levels in a regard that I think is still really underrated in the league. But I can't say enough about this Cavs team clearly. So, Martin, I want to hear your thoughts from your perspective.
When the first game happened, I think it was against the Hornets on the 20.
It was against the Knicks.
The Knicks.
Oh no, you're right. I'm sorry.
First
you're
game
right.
was
against
the 23rd against the.
No, it was the Hornets. You're right.
They pointed out 121-114, where Terry Rozier had, I think, about close to 40, if not 40. Watching them shoot, Garland, like that man can shoot, and especially from me watching the Cavs from this year to last year, it really looks like Colin Sexton is really finding himself in the NBA and within this organization. I know Dwayne Wade tweeted out saying that Colin started to figure it out.
He did.
Just watch out. And like you said with Larry Nance Jr., that man is really all over the court in every statistical aspect. That first game, he almost had a triple-double. Like you said, he's leading in steals. If the season ended today, he'd be first team all NBA defense. And the coaching staff is having these guys play, and they're playing with some real grit and pride right now, and they're 5-4. Sitting if the playoffs ended if the season ended today, they'd be in the playoffs, and I'm really liking what they're doing. I know the situation with Kevin Porter Jr. is very alarming and troubling, and we're all just waiting to see how that pans out. But another person, I know we talked about Sabonis from Indiana, but another person who would get most improved in my book would also be Larry Nance Jr.
I think so too. Again, he's just absolutely playing out of his mind. I mean, the stats aren't going to overwhelm you. He's playing 34 minutes a game, 9.6 points, 6.1 boards, dishing out 4.3 assists, 2.4 steals. I mean, he's just filling it up on any given night. I mean, they've had some player projections on like how much offense you generate versus how much defense you generate, how much defense that you generate and points you save and everything else. I mean, he is at the top of the league in terms of that. They do like a little graph. I forget if it's Cleaning the Glass or whatever the source is that has like a cross graph on that.
All right, so we were on the Cavs, so now we are on the 8th seed, who we both said was coming out of the East, the Brooklyn Nets.
We were ready to crown them the champs after one game on Christmas Day.
Oh, shit.
And here they are, 5-5.
I know. But yeah, let's 5-5. Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, now they've also been hit with COVID. They're seeing if Kevin Durant's going to be coming back on the Sunday game from Steve Nash talking, and they just won on Thursday against a good Philadelphia team. So they're still a good team. Just very surprised they're 5-5. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of what we thought about. I mean, just with hey, we're going to rest Kyrie this day. We're going to rest Kevin this day. We're going to rest both of them. They've had in one instance so far. And then you had the Kevin Durant ailment thing go down. Kyrie Irving didn't hop on a flight, right? And just said personal reasons and didn't respond to Steve Nash, who tried to reach out and publicly said he reached out to Kyrie, wouldn't elaborate. Obviously, that had happened since all the craziness in DC, and we know Kyrie's really passionate about those things. But as much as we were enthused about the prospects of the Nets, they are who we thought they were to an extent in terms of just, can they bring it every night? I mean, again, I still think in a 7-game series, that's a team you don't want to play. They're going to beat 11 out of 12 teams that you throw at them, if they're all healthy. But yeah, I mean, they'll be in the playoff spot. They're not going to be out of there unless something devastating happens to one of the big two. But Jared Allen had a heck of a game earlier this week, and hopefully they finally do the right thing and put that man in the starting lineup and have a serious conversation with, hey, I know you guys are boys, Kyrie and Kevin, with DeAndre, but he's not good.
Yeah, I want to talk more about Kyrie because this has been a big thing, that Thursday night game. He didn't play and nobody knew why. And we've talked about this a lot with this man. He's so supremely talented in the game of basketball, but sometimes his antics just make us scratch our head. Just for a normal American citizen like yourself or I, we couldn't just not come to work and then not text or call our boss back saying why we're not there. That is just not the way that for normal people it works. So just seeing him do that, and then I'm seeing something on the New York Post that has something to do.
I just read that too.
Yeah, about what happened in DC. But I'm just like, why didn't you just text? I don't know. Just some things I'm like, normal people couldn't get away with it. But since he's so good at basketball, they're going to obviously let it slide. If he was an average player or lower, he would have been reprimanded.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we're at with, I mean, it's basically it's not as bad as a James Harden thing, but yeah, I mean, it's, hey, we're going to give you a longer leash here, and we hope it doesn't come back to bite us in the butt. And I mean, the Nets still have to go out and they still have to play games. And, you know, I feel for LeVert and Joe Harris and all those guys that, I mean, they're going to show up. They're going to grab their lunch pail and go to work every day. And they're not going to know whether or not Kyrie and Kevin are going to be out there at times. I mean, more so Kyrie on the day-to-day decision making. But you're right. You can't just not show up for work. You got to afford Steve Nash at least a conversation. My guess, I'm sure they've talked since then, but his quote in that same New York Post article was, "I reached out to Kai and basically, yeah, hadn't heard back." I mean, you can't do that.
No, not to a rookie head coach, not in the media market where they're at. It's just not a good look, and not even to. He gets a bad rap for things, but sometimes that is brought up on him by himself. So I just feel like sometimes he just needs to act more professional, and we already know the guy can put a ball through a hoop. So we'll see. By the end of the year, you're right. I think they'll be up in the top 4 or 2, and they'll get out of the East. Let's go to the West Coast, where we have the top 8 teams in the West right now. And I got number 1 as of right now, the defending world champions, the Los Angeles Lakers. Is that who you got?
Yes, the reigning, defending, undisputed. Well, it's probably a little bit disputed with the bubble when people are still salty about that. But yeah, the Lakers have had a couple dud games in there. You just scratch your head. So that 9-point loss to the Spurs on Thursday, the 8-point loss to the Blazers at the end of December, where you're just like, yeah. But I mean, we knew that coming in. The Lakers had the short one. They and the Heat had the shortest turnaround in terms of off season, if you want to call it that. And I mean, they're coasting. I mean, LeBron's. I listened to a podcast this morning that brought out a good point that LeBron's staying around a little bit more, like not in a bad way, but like he doesn't have to have the ball staying around. I mean, he's in a couple instances he's doing some catch and shoot stuff too, just because of how good Dennis Schroeder's been. So he's been a great guy to come in to control the offense, control the pace, and they can afford to take, you know, LeBron or AD out of the game and just kind of run some heavy vets with Schroeder and with Harrell and stuff too, and they can stagger LeBron and AD's minutes. when they do play, and then also afford to rest some games. But the Lakers are they've definitely impressed me, I think, with the shortened off season and coming out how they have, and that's why part of the reason why they're integrating those new pieces, doing those upgrades, and that's part of the reason why they're sitting at the top of the West.
Yeah, nothing. It's as expected. We both have them still coming out of the West. I think we both still have them winning it all if everything goes accordingly, unless another team shows us something. But they're playing well. Just like you said, Denver, that was a huge pickup. Don't know how the league let them get him, and LeBron and AD is AD, and they're playing well, 7-3. I don't see them not being the number one seed when this is all said and done. Now, the number 2 seed, who I'm seeing, I had them sneaking into the playoffs, but right now they're the number 2 seed, and I have the Phoenix Suns.
Yep. I mean, I think when we went back to our preview thing that there's a lot of, there's going to be a lot of sorting out yet to do. All your playoff teams basically from the number 3 seed down to the 9th seed, essentially, your folks are in the conversation, are 4-4, 5-4. We're still all congested. We just started the race. All the horses are still in the pack. Nobody's really begun to separate themselves yet, but you still got to win ball games. And out of the 9 games they played so far, Phoenix has won 6 of them, playing really well behind Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, who's playing really well too. Chris Paul's scoring is way down so far, but they haven't had to rely on him that. He's averaging only 13 points a game in those 9 games. Assists are, about where they're going to be, 8.3 or so. But they just are really well balanced right now, top to bottom. And it's because of guys like DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and Darius Saric that they've got. It's almost like Miami Heat-esque kind of what they're doing, where you just got, on any given night, there's a guy who can go off and get you. And you've got that guy at the top who obviously, and Devin Booker, who can go out and drop, 50 or 60 a couple times a year too. But they've been impressive, and I hope they prove us wrong, as maybe not a 7 or 8 seed sneaking in, but end up being a little bit higher.
Agreed. I love it.
Martin, your favorite team, the LA Clippers, sit at number 3, 6-4. Yep. We're up, since we're not going to necessarily talk about them as a playoff team. I guess we will here in a couple, because they've rebounded. But last night, they got curried. They got curried, and they got curried bad.
Yep.
They were up, I believe, 22, 23 points. They end up losing the game 115-105 at the hands of the babyface assassin, one Wardell, Stephen Curry, who dropped 38 points, 9 of 14 from 3. 13-24 from the field, and also dished out 11 assists as well, with not a lot of help around him. Eric Paschall had 12. Andrew Wiggins had 16. Beyond that, no one else had double digits. The Clippers are kind of still where we kind of thought they were, right? They're 6-4. They definitely have better talent than. They definitely have good talent that's going to keep them around, and they have better talent than the Warriors have right now. They're going to be where they need to be at the end of the season. But Martin, talk about that game last night a little bit.
Just for reference on that, so it was 71-51 with 10 minutes and 10 seconds left in the third quarter. At that point, the Clippers were up by 20, and the Warriors only had 51 points at 10-10 at the third quarter, and then they finished with 115 with a quarter, basically 2 quarters. And it's crazy because when this team got put together, Paul George and Kawhi, and some people were saying they're the 2 best perimeter defending duo since MJ and Pip. And you just said with Steph Curry with no help, really, and he's dropped 38. And when I'm watching that game, I was just wondering, are they going to take turns on Curry? Why are they trapping? Like, what is happening? And ever since last year, it's really hard for me to watch the Clippers, because now I'm starting to get accustomed to them just blowing leads. And like we said, their talent's going to keep them in this race. But from last year to right now, I don't see them making the West Finals. They'll probably just lose in the semifinals again. It's just, I don't know. I'm waiting for Kawhi to just explode. And Paul George, we've spoken nauseam about him all last year, so I don't need to say.
And Paul had a good. I mean, Paul and Kawhi both had good games last night. I mean, Kawhi under 50% shooting, still got his 24. And Serge Ibaka has been great for them. I mean, what they've lost in Harrell. I mean, Ibaka's been a great ad, but you're right. Defensively, last night was atrocious. It can't happen. You can't just leave Beverly out there on an island and some of those other guys for Reggie Jackson for a couple minute spell here and there and stuff too. But I mean, there were also some duds last night. Marcus Morris 1 of 7 from the field.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Bev himself 2 of 8. They've got some length to throw at Curry. I mean, to double him more than they did, and they're outscored 30-22 in the second, or 30-22 in the third. And then they were outscored 34-18 in the fourth and lost by 10. That can't happen. Nope. So, Martin, if there's one thing I am proud about with the Clippers, it's that we yielded all of our time talking about them to talk about the Warriors, bashing them and how they're not in the game mentally at number 3. And I'm content to leave it there. Let's go on to the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz at number 4.
As expected. I didn't think any of us thought they were going to drop out of the top 8 in the West. They have a good team, honestly. Obviously Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, who just got paid those big bucks, and I know Shaq jokingly said, "Man, now they're giving big contracts for people who only average 11, 12 points a game," which was kind of cold. But then they have Jordan Clarkson, obviously our guy, Mike Conley. I don't think they play hard. They just came out recently saying the owner is going to give a scholarship for every win that they get, which is a fantastic gesture.
Wow.
Their part. So hopefully the Utah Jazz are one of those teams where throughout my adult life, even with Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer, they're always the 50-32 team. Like somehow they always sneak in 50 wins, only 32 losses, and sometimes win a playoff series, or they're a tough 7-game out. That's just the Utah Jazz team I remembered from Darren Williams to now. And I feel like they're just on the path again to have another 50-32 season.
Yeah. So they've got a couple impressive wins so far early on in the year. So the aforementioned Clippers back on December 17th, they trounced by 20. Yep. Bad loss in there to a really bad Timberwolves team right now. I mean, really bad. Also an impressive 20-point win over the Trailblazers too. And an early, again, this is all early, what have you, but I'm sorry, that was a preseason game where they lost or they beat the Clippers by 20, which, yeah, I mean, you can say what you want, but yeah, bad loss in there to the Timberwolves. Beat the Thunder by 1 back on 12-28. Did beat the Clippers by 6 on New Year's Day. But two underrated signings real quick, and we'll move back to the Golden State briefly. Talk about their rebound from a bad Christmas Day kind of opening for them. I really like that they had brought back Derek Favors. Had a great career in Utah before departing there on a free agent deal, and they brought him back. I mean, that's been a sneaky good defensive signing. He's only averaging about 7 points and 5 boards off the bench, but I mean, that's been great. And then the Jordan Clarkson too. I mean, heat check bonanza Jordan Clarkson has really stepped up efficiency wise. He's almost at 50% from the field and 42% from 3. I mean, those aren't Jordan Clarkson like numbers. I mean, Jordan Clarkson always gets buckets, but it's kind of in that Lou Williams, like it's because of pure volume where I stick up a lot to kind of get there. So, and then too, I mean, getting Bogdanovich back has certainly helped too in terms of some wing depth. So, yeah, you're right. They're going to be right where they need to be. Do they have what they have to make it past the second round? Yet to be seen. I still think there are a couple big name wing players away that, maybe take a gamble and put some assets out there. And And who knows? I mean, that could be like a wild card James Harden thing for all I know. And then you're like, whoa, okay. Because I feel like that's going to be the Harden trade incarnate is when somebody comes out of the woodworks at like Utah Jazz that just nobody expects. So let's jump back to where are we on? 6? 5.
We're on the
5 in those Golden State Warriors. So obviously the really, really bad Christmas Day game where they, I mean, just were absolutely demolished by the Bucks, 138-99. Previously to that, they lost by 26 to the Nets on opening night on 12-22. Since then, since those two awful games, they beat the Bulls by 1. They beat a really bad Pistons team, as they should, by 10. Lose to the Blazers. And then on the back-to-back, they they lost the Blazers by 25. And then, as we've been seeing, almost the baseball, like 2-game mini series, then they come back and beat the Blazers 2 days later by 15. Stomp on the Kings, 137-106. 137-106. Lose to the Clippers on the first side of the back-to-back series there, and then obviously that huge come from behind last night. I mean, this team is going to go as far as Steph's going to take them right now. Obviously, Draymond has been the big piece, I think, in getting some of these guys back. But Martin, what have you seen in, they've been able to shake off some of these big losses early on, and I mean, if you wipe those out, they're essentially those 2 early losses out. They're essentially 5-2, and they are 5-2 in their last 7. So I mean, they've been playing really inspired basketball behind Steph, and they've been getting bits and pieces from the folks they need to. Obviously, Oubre's just still been atrocious. I'm pretty sure JaVale McGee still has hit more 3-pointers than he has so far this year, which says a lot. There was a Twitter shot I saw thrown Oubre's way, and Wiggins being Wiggins, but Draymond's been good. They've been feisty.
Yeah, if you remember, after they got obliterated those first couple of games by like a record margin, Steph Curry straight up said, "We need to win immediately, just because you need to right this ship." And just like recently, when he had his career high 60-point game, and he went 18 from 19 from the free throw line, and his usage rate right now this is coming from CBS. His usage rate is a 31.9. He's running a lot more pick and rolls for obvious reasons. And he's been aggressive. People forget that because of him being out a lot early in his career with ankle injury. Steph Curry's in his 12th season. Like he's been around, which I don't know if people realize that he's 32 in his 12th season. And just watching him play recently, it's almost kind of reminded me of his first MVP, where he's just going crazy. And I would want to say too that James Wiseman's actually impressed me a little bit. Like I think if he can be consistent, he can do some real great things for Golden State. And obviously, when we talked on Christmas Day, we asked if Draymond was back because he's the emotional engine of the team leader, and now guy knows to get people riled up. But they are fighting, man. And if they had Clay, I would have had them in the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers. But if they are in the playoffs, they are going to be an extremely tough out for anyone. And Curry said it. He saw everyone talking about him being done and this and that. And he, quote, said, "You guys know that Jordan meme? I took it personally."
Yeah. I mean, I am never, ever going to be a personal fan of Steph Curry, just like because like how the Cavs games, those Cavs final series went down, and his wife tweeting about how rigged it is and chucking mouthpieces in our fans and everything else. But man, do I sure respect the hell out of Steph Curry, and he's just balling right now. 30.6, little under 40% shooting from 3, 6.8 assists, active in the steals game with 1.2. You're right. His PER's absolutely through the roof. Anytime you get above 25, 26 in PER, he's just been phenomenal. And I mean, too, without a cast, it's really helping him out. Just Wiggins on volume scoring is averaging 17.6, but beyond that, I don't have a single player above 12 a game. As good as Draymond's been, I think defensively for them, And from a assist standpoint, he and Oubre both have been atrocious in terms of shooting. Draymond through 5 games is only averaging. He's not even averaging 3 points a game. When have we ever said that? I mean, he's never been a guy who's going to shoot you into a game. But 2.8 is bad. Kelly Oubre again, 13.3% from 3. And then just 33% from the field for him. James Wiseman, yes, he's been thrown into this thing early on, and he'll continue to grow. And he's really looking like he's going to be he's really looking like a bright spot for how Curry's next 5 years in the league is going to be. That will, take him through year 17. You're exactly right. Martin, let's move to the number 6 seed. Those boys from Dallas.
Our MVP, Luka.
Averaging 27, 9, and 8, so a near triple-double. Also 1.1 steals a game and close to Steph with a 25.89 PER. Timmy Hardaway's been really solid scoring the ball wise, and Josh Richardson's been really what this team needs from a spot shooter standpoint too. So that's been really great for Luka to have. They've been competitive as well. Obviously, they had a tough loss to the Lakers on Christmas Day by 23 on 12-27. I mean, we I think talked about this on the last pod. Just smacked the taste out of the Clippers' mouth. 124-73. And what was that atrocious halftime score again? Do you remember? I mean, it was like 70-30. Yeah. It was absurd. It was the largest deficit in NBA history. So I mean, they were responsible for that. They beat the Heat on New Year's Day by 10, or another great win. The Hornets, who've been up and down, bad loss there by 19. And then, another bad loss as recently as last Sunday to the Bulls by 18. So, I mean, and then they came back and beat the Rockets by 13. So, I mean, when they've been on, they've been on. When they've been off, they've been really off. Still no Kristaps. So, whenever they get him back into the fold, that'll be something really interesting to see how they bring him back and incorporate him in the offense, some of that pick and roll stuff, the corner 3. If they try to get him back down towards the basket to be effective, or if that's just going to clog the lane for Luka. They've been definitely a team of growth, but also a team of frustration at times. So.
Yeah, I feel like we really can't even judge Dallas until they get Kristaps back. And I'm really praying that he can stay healthy once he comes back for the rest of the way going forward. Because I really want to see this Luka Kristaps duo at full strength. Like, I feel like this team can really do some things. That annihilation of the Clippers was just so eye-boggling. I don't know if I was more eye-boggling how well the Mavericks were playing or just how terrible the Clippers looked. But I really do think once they get Kristaps back, they're going to be a contender in the West. But the 7th seed right now, who I have, are the San Antonio Spurs, and I did not have them here right now at 4-4. And if you look at their thing, they've already played the Lakers 3 times already going. They went 1-2 against the Lakers, but their first loss was on the 30th, 121-107. And then right on New Year's Day, they played them close. Lakers won 109-103. Then the Spurs just beat them on the 7th, 118-109. And the Spurs have also beaten the Clippers the day on the 5th, 116-113. And I don't know if it's Pop working his magic again and again. It's early. Teams are all congested. But right now, Spurs would be in the playoffs, and that's a shocking one. Maybe because Houston's not in it right now, but Spurs are shocking to me right now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they basically just kind of rolled the same group back, more or less. I mean, DeMar's been really, really good. I mean, his 3-point percentage is even above 40%. We're actually saying that. I mean, he's been really, really good. Devin Vassell, who I liked in the draft, a lot of people were scared off by like some video that was allegedly him just screwing with his shot on purpose. Allegedly, that looked just his form just looked atrocious and scared people off. Great defender. He's been good, and he's I believe he's shooting over 50% from three. Oh, where is he down the list here? Yeah, 53% on just a couple attempts a game, but he's been great defensively. DeJounte Murray's is doing his thing again. Another guy I'd like to see take a big leap this year. I feel like I've been saying that each of the last 2 or 3 years. But I mean, they're getting some great contributions from Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, both averaging 12 and 13 a game too. I mean, they're doing Spurs like things again. And I mean, like you said, there needs to be some separation there. And then looking at the 8-seeded Blazers, obviously, they can score like anybody, but just so bad defensively. They're there obviously at 4-4 as well. Dame and CJ both at 26 plus and 5 assists and 4 boards plus each. Again, a great dynamic duo. Melo's only at 12 a game. A lot of like with Gary Trent Jr. again this year. Enes Kanter has been huge for them, getting him back in the post to help spell Nurkic. Robert Covington was again a huge purchase for them with 2 first-round picks to Houston. But yeah, again, they've added some new pieces. Derrick Jones Jr. is in there as well too, the high flyer from Miami last year. But again, they've got so many question marks defensively. It's probably going to be the same situation as they were last year, where they're competing for that 7-8 seed, maybe in the play-in games, and it's just going to be a sheer matter of can Dame outscore their bad defense. So,
yeah, and then one team that currently not in at 3 and 4, don't really want to talk about them too much, just individual on the team. Houston Rockets with James Harden. And now that we're a couple weeks into the season, he's had some big games individually. Do you see the market still being the same for him? Like, I know he's been trying to dodge those questions about wanting out, but then on social media and the news, we still hear he wants to be out. But now playing, are the same teams that play for him? Like, does Philly really want to trade Ben Simmons for James Harden straight up? The Nets really want James Harden. You brought up one of Utah, which I could actually see that working if they trade the right people. But what are you thinking about when it comes to Harden now?
I mean, I still think the market's at where it's at. I mean, he's a big headache. Who wants to bring that on their team? And then also you're like, there's James Harden. And like it's almost like flirting or dating with a girl that is like an 11 out of 10, but is just like there's not anything long term here. Or like it's you're battling that moral and ethical dilemma. Like you're gonna have a good time. You guys are gonna have some great nights out in the town, everything else. But like at the end of the day, like it's not like it might not be husband or wife material if we do go the relationship both ways. But like it's a tough call. I think if James is going to get traded, and again, like Houston's going to have to settle on what they get back. It's going to be a 3 quarters on the dollar type thing. If they can get to 80 cents on the dollar, they might have to pull the trigger. They're definitely not going to get value back for what he does on the court. I really think we're going to be surprised with like a team out of left field come and get him, kind of like with OKC and picking up Paul George from the Pacers. I really think that's how it's going to go. Another team too that could sorely use hey, we'll take a flyer and see what happens is, I would not be surprised if somehow Masai and Toronto sneak in there too and put some stuff together. Now I almost think, I mean, Siakam definitely would have to go in that deal, but and then again, like, what are you coming back to necessarily? But I mean, they've been struggling. I mean, they've picked it up and won a couple games here, but from their awful start. But yeah, I mean, I think any team willing to pull the trigger, we've seen that before, where a team can basically mortgage their future away, throw 4 or 5 firsts or pick swaps or whatever on top of a young asset or two, and then you're right there. But speaking of the time I really want to spend on the Houston Rockets is talking about my most improved player, Christian Wood. I think everybody expected him to take a huge leap. He was buried on the Pistons bench last year. He's averaging 23 and 10 and 2 blocks. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know if you've caught any of his play with Houston yet. I mean, these are like Anthony Davis numbers, man.
No, you're right. He even I'm just reading this thing too from Rockets Wire, how he circled his next 2 games against Anthony Davis. The guy, 25 years old, 6'10". You're right. He has improved a lot. Well, maybe because we didn't get to see him because he was buried on that bench. Now, with him, and when they trade James, because now it's still a matter of when, do you think he's someone that Houston could build around?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Again, like you said, he's 25. He's definitely had a different career to get in here, and very much a late bloomer. But I hate when people write off guys like that. Your 4-year college players that maybe take another year to develop and everything else. I mean, look at, I think, 24, 25 or so was like basically when you saw like the Fred Van Vliet of the world like start to go. But no, I mean that's a great question, Martin. I think I need to see maybe 2 or 3 weeks out of him like this, but I definitely think you can build around this guy, and I like the way the Rockets have been playing. I think he's not been contributing a whole lot, but I mean bringing in Jayshawn Tate to be as a scrappy defender, rebounder, I think has been great for them as well. I do like. I don't think it's all doom and gloom in Houston, and I mean this is a huge asset to have. I mean, you still have Wall and Boogie to be competitive as well. Yeah, I mean, I like their prospects a lot better than a lot of other teams. One other team that I really like out of the West right now would be the Sacramento Kings. So Tyrese Halliburton, I'm not going to say, a lot of people are trying to crown him Rookie of the Year already. He missed a little bit of time in a couple games with I think a hand injury of sorts. But I mean, they're 4-5, so they're game under 500. But they've been really, really competitive. You're seeing it from across the scoring sheet there. Corey Joseph is a really steady hand coming in with that. Second unit, maybe they can get Marvin Bagley III's dad to stop tweeting about trading him.
Yeah,
Things might be good here soon. And he's not the only one trying to tweet him. Because if we also go to one of my, I thought you might be a little bit better now teams in the Eastern Conference with the Hawks, you have Trae Young's dad tweeting. No, not Trae Young's dad. It was Trae Young is currently in a feud of sorts with John Collins. It was John Collins' dad, I believe, tweeting about trading him. So yeah, I mean it's an interesting age we live in where the president of the United States is permanently banned off Twitter as of I think today, and we can know the thoughts of the NBA trade machine with players' dads right now. I love NBA Twitter. There's no better place.
Yeah, agreed on that. And just one to go from the positive, I would be remiss to not talk about this team from the East because I said they'd be an 8th seed, and they are god-awful right now, and that is the Washington Wizards. I thought with 2 All-Stars, Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, they'd be able to get into the 8th spot of the East, which they still can. The season's early, but as of right now, as Bradley Beal said, they can't guard a parked car. They're bad right now.
It's bad.
And Westbrook might average triple-double again this year, but I just had to throw them out there that they are terrible. And you brought up President Trump, and it always seems like the NBA and the WNBA are always the first sports organizations who always are like the first games after something major like COVID and now this. And you saw the players standing in solidarity during these times of what happened in DC. Were you nervous about players not wanting to play like for a while until things changed, or boycotting or things like that? Because they're very outspoken.
Yes, you're exactly right. I'll be honest. I mean, obviously that was the premise of the bubble with the activism we saw, the calls for action on the names of the back of the jersey. To be honest, I was really nervous about whether or not they're going to play games after that in DC. But I could not be more proud of this league and these players for how they've continued to handle it. On one hand, I feel like obviously basketball. I know that basketball is not as important, but me as and I'm sure for you too, me as somebody who saw what transpired this weekend in Washington and how ugly that was, and just the doom scrolling of the news and the guy carrying the podium out of the thing who was just arrested today, and the guy sitting in Pelosi's chair, and just the break-ins and people lost their lives, and just horrendous that was. That's the beauty of basketball, and that's the beauty of what these guys bring to the table in addition to their platform, is the ability to detox and, to find out, to get that kind of reassurance of just doing something stupid like watching a basketball game, that, hey, things are going to be okay. We're going to give you a 3-hour spell from some craziness going on in this world. And we're not going to let that. I mean, we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to do things that are going to be advantageous for not only our basketball community, but our society and our nation, to continue to push reform and to be better as a society. But again, there's just something so simplistic, and I was just so appreciative that they found a way to be unified. The Cavs and Grizzlies did that again the other night too, locking arms before tip off there. And the Celtics did the joint press release with the Nets, I believe, calling for unity and action this time. I mean, again, there's something very simplistic in still playing a basketball game. And I mean, I needed that Wednesday. I know that's selfish of me to say, but I needed to detox from just the craziness and everything else, and just get lost in a little bit of basketball game to get my mind right, and to go into Thursday as well. And I think a lot of folks across the country felt that way too.
Yeah, agreed. And I really don't want to add any much more to that. It's just with the NBA too. I mean, it's very individually driven based. It's not like the NFL.
Not at all.
No, it's more individuals, and you've heard everyone speak out. I mean, anytime the best player in the league says something, LeBron James, he'll be on every news outlet, and other players have said what they've needed to say as well. And this is the era where you don't want to win, you want to promote your brand, and you want to promote social change. So, I mean, they're doing all of that, and also giving us normal people who don't have some of their luxuries and stuff like that, and we're just seeing the things on the news, just like you said, a way to decompress and watch that happened on Wednesday, so that would have been watch the ESPN 8 and 10 o'clock game just to escape for a bit. So I wholeheartedly agree on that. Evan, was there anything else you wanted to hit on your first pod of 2021?
No, but I think it's only appropriate probably to we can go on about some of the dumpster dweller teams like the Pistons and the Wizards and the Raptors, the Timberwolves. My goodness, Grizzlies are hurt so bad with injuries, and the West is only one team doesn't have 3 wins in the West and 8 or 9 tries. But I mean, we can go on and some of these teams detail wise, but I think it's important for us and for the listeners to end on that unity speech, and to know that, hey, there's going to be somehow, some way, there's going to be better days ahead. Again, I'm thankful for that detox, and the players continuing to play and use their voices to help us find unity, to help us see that, hey, there's going to be there's more that we have in common with our neighbors and brothers and coworkers than what divides us. So that's the beauty of the NBA. I am looking forward to, in the next, depending on if we tape next week, if not, a little bit of teaser of one of my favorite days in terms of unity is, it's really basketball is really Christmas Day take 2, and the full NBA slate is going to take part on Martin Luther King Day too. Another great opportunity for the NBA fans and the world, and us as Americans to rally around some great messaging, some great unifying themes with everything that Dr. King stood for, and do it alongside basketball as the platform to communicate and have those conversations. So looking forward to that. I think that's a good way to end it here, and say a prayer for me, who's going to see how long I can make it into this what's going to be inevitably a Cavs trouncing by the Bucks tonight, again with no Garland, KPJ, Sexton, Windler, Love, Exum, or Delly. So should be great. Andre Drummond's probably going to get in foul trouble on Giannis real early, and we're going to lose by 30. Hopefully we only lose by 20. So we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, and with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Thank you, Evan, for being the NBA expert that you are. First one of 2021. We will be back close to next week, sometime later in the week, just to go over those Martin Luther King Day, and also just to talk about how that day has really been ingratiated by the NBA as, like you said, their second Christmas that people aren't too knowing of. So with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to L7C podcast. You guys take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.